Well, this is some of the books I read last year. Not all of them, but it's a good start, I guess. Okay, so I think we can all agree that reading is really good for us. And as you know, I like to read a lot. This is just a sample. It doesn't include all the audiobooks. Oh, okay, we gotta make some room here. All the audiobooks, and I have a bunch out on loan. But this is a good representation of my stack that I read last year. Wow, hold on, give me a second. Books are heavy. Reading is really important for learning, keeping our minds sharp, ingesting knowledge that other people have figured out, and learning from it. But with all the distractions around us, with tablets and smartphones and all the other things in life, how can we possibly find the time to read more? And in this video, I want to outline some of the principles I use to read this many books every single year. Let's get started. Hey friends, if you've been following my content for any period of time, you will know that I love learning new things. It's one of my goals is to learn something new every single day. So life is really busy, and last year, 2021, I read 100 books. But yeah, life is busy. How do we find time for this? And really last year, I was finishing up my college degree. I was finishing building this house that my wife and I completed. And over the years, I've developed several things that I use to read more books and to carve out more time in my schedule to always be learning something new. The point is, busyness is not necessarily the reason that we don't read more. The real issue is whether you have created the proper habits around learning new things every single day. Have you created a good habit to read more books? So in this video, we'll break down 4 practical things that I use all the time to ensure that I stay on track with all my reading goals. And the first one is having a dedicated time each and every day that you set out, I'm going to read this chunk of time. So for me, it's usually first thing in the morning. I carve out a half hour or an hour, turn my phone on silent, I go somewhere quiet, give myself space to think and have set time. Okay, I'm going to sit down and read this thing. I'm going to learn this specific thing. And that is incredibly refreshing, especially at the beginning of your day before all the busyness of life and work kind of hits you sideways sometimes throughout the day. Before that happens, you've taken that time to get your brain oriented, to get quiet in your head, and really focus in on learning something new that day. The key here is to make this into a habit, something that just naturally flows as part of your day. And this will take some time to develop, but get creative with it. For myself, I try to pair reading with something else I enjoy to make it that much easier to remember. And I also have a system that I use to track, have I completed this habit every single day? And it keeps me on my toes to remember, have I actually done this? Am I continuing with this goal that I have? If you pair the habit of wanting to read more with another habit that you already have and something that you already enjoy, it will be that much easier. So for myself, I like making good coffee every morning. So if I pair that with, hey, I will make a good cup of coffee for myself, maybe a latte or something, when I am reading, then those two things go together and my brain will tell me reading is something that I really enjoy because it's tied with another habit that I already have. That way, I won't go and make myself a cup of coffee unless I am sitting down to read a book. That's kind of my own rule that I've made for myself, and it's been incredibly effective to do that. So take reading, pair it with something you already enjoy doing, and only let you do that other thing you enjoy doing when you're sitting down to read a book. Okay, so the second thing, make it as easy as possible to read. In today's world, there are a myriad of ways to read, and as you can see, I enjoy physical books because, here, let me give you an example. So I love reading physical books. If you would go on my Amazon list, you will see I've ordered quite a few. So like here's one, I was getting material for it for a class I'm teaching, and I've got notes, I've got highlights, I've got stuff in the margins and little tags and things. I love the physical tactile feel of a real book, but there's a problem with that. I can't tote all 100 of these books with me wherever I go. I travel a lot. So that's where option number 2 comes in for me, and that's a tablet. I use an iPad, you can use whatever, Kindle, whatever you feel like. Get a good ebooks service, Kindle, there's a bunch of others, I'll link them down in the description, and you can take your books wherever you want to go, which is really, really convenient. I still prefer paper. This is also a second option that I often read on my tablet when I'm traveling or out and about. And the beauty of using ebooks is they work on your phone as well. So all those times when you're waiting in line, at the coffee shop or something, you can be pulling out that book and picking up right where you left off. Maybe you were reading with your tablet and you can start reading with your phone. And it's incredible how much more material you'll go through just by making it that simple to read. If you put it in front of you all the time, you'll be amazed how many more pages you'll get through. So one practical thing is I removed all my social media apps from the home screen of my phone. So when I unlock it, first screen you see, there's no social media apps or anything like that there. Instead, in a prominent place, I've put my ebooks app of choice, which is Scribd, or Scribed, or however you say it. Anyway, that's in the description as well. Love that app. And it's right there. It's super easy and convenient for me to, when I have a few minutes to kill, I whip out my phone. Instead of aimlessly scrolling through Instagram, I can be reading a good book instead. But the really big one for me is audiobooks. I absolutely love audiobooks, which is why of the 100 I read last year, a good chunk were audiobooks, which is why the stack should actually be larger than it is. But needless to say, again, I travel, you're sitting on a plane, whatever, you can plug your headphones in and away you go. You can be ingesting incredible ideas and stories and thoughts that you haven't had before simply by listening to the book instead of having to physically, buy it and tote it with you. Or you're driving, this is another big one. You're driving, that's kind of dead time. So I'll plug in an audiobook and be listening to something there. And that has just been huge. I love doing it. It makes road trips a lot more interesting. And there's some really good audiobook services out there. Again, I use Scribd, which also does ebooks as well. I love them, $9 a month, get unlimited books, which is a crazy good deal. They're not sponsoring this or anything. I just love what they do. But that's the thing with the growth of technology and how cheap books are anymore, especially if you buy used, there's really no excuse to not make them readily accessible all across your life. So another thing I do is prominent places throughout my house, I'll have a good book sitting there that I'm reading. So I'm often reading multiple books at a time. So maybe I'll have one sitting on my nightstand. I'll have one, in the living room. I'll have a few here in my office, in the main area outside my office here, just to make it that much easier. You're going through the house, you're maybe have a little free time. You can sit down and immediately be reading a good book. So the third thing, and this one's really important, and that is simply to enjoy what you're reading. So it can be intimidating to feel, I have to read the great classics. I should be reading, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, which is a huge book and a little bit complicated. Maybe you feel pressure to pick up, Socrates or Plato, which was something I was dabbling with last year. But those can be overwhelming, and maybe that's just something you don't enjoy. Instead, you would rather read, a work of fiction or an interesting memoir or a story. It's important to actually enjoy it. You'll never form the habit if you just don't enjoy what you're reading. If it's laborious to sit down and wade through a book that you're forcing yourself to read, you will not turn reading into a habit in your life. It's an uphill battle. Instead, make that journey easy. Find topics you're already interested in, buy a couple of books that look good on it, and if the book is just incredibly boring and you're not learning anything from it anyway, it's not wrong to just close it and set it aside and pick up something else. I do this all the time, or sometimes, which in this case, these are all books I read entirely, but sometimes I'll try a book and after the first or second chapter, I'm just like, no, this isn't worth my time. It's a very significant time investment to read this many books. So I'll just close it, get rid of it, give it to someone else or something, and go on to something else that I know will be worth my time. And that's very much okay, and you should be doing that. Enjoy the journey, enjoy what you're learning, and don't feel this pressure to, immediately dive into all the classics and all the books that you're quote unquote supposed to read. And the fourth thing is to what I call gamify this. Turn it into a bit of a game. Find a way to track what you're reading and keep track of, I learned this thing, or I read X amount of pages this day. That makes it a lot more fun. So I personally use the app called Goodreads, which is kind of like Facebook except for books, I guess, if that makes sense. I love that app. You can set reading goals, you can have lists of books. Hey, I would like to read this someday. You can set, here's how many I want to read this year, and then track it and mark them as read. And you can go in and see what your friends are reading and what other people think of the book. I use this all the time, especially when it's like, I'm looking to buy a new book. I'll go on Goodreads and say, okay, what are the reviews? Is this worth my time? Do I want to use this? So you can follow me over on Goodreads, actually, if you're interested in seeing what I read. But there's a lot of other apps. Take your pick. I also use a notes app to keep track every single day. Have I read today? Like, did I maintain the habit? And if I at the end of the day, I see that, I'm like, oh man, I didn't read today, I'm breaking my habit, then that's incentive to keep the habit going. So find a way to kind of gamify it, see what other people are reading, learn from them, maybe join a book club, something like that, to make it more interesting and dynamic. There's so many options out there. You can just start Googling stuff and you will find all kinds of great ideas to make this more enjoyable, because reading should be fun. You should be learning, but it should be enjoyable as well. Thank you for watching. Those are the 4 main tips that I have developed over the last few years to read more books. And for this year, 2022, which I know we're already a few months into it, this video is way late, sorry about that, but I'm set to read 80 books and we'll see how that goes. So if you're interested, you can follow the journey over on Goodreads and see how I'm doing. So I hope you found this video interesting and it encouraged you to explore the realm of good books and to go out there and learn something new every single day. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Oh, wow. This is so many books. By the way, you never realize how heavy these are until you pick up a whole bunch of them. Thanks for watching, by the way. Just give me a minute while I put all these away. Oh, and if you're interested, I have a podcast about the books that I read with my good friend Jaron. Link in the description. Oh, and also I do a podcast with my brother about all the things we're learning, and we often review books, so hey, that's in the description too. And if you found this interesting, let me know in the comments what books I should be reading next, because, there's always good stuff out there to learn. If you've watched this far to the end, and you're just watching me put away books, whoa, you're a trooper. I appreciate it. Okay, what do we have? Oh, and if you're curious, this is just not even my library. We're still waiting to get a whole bunch of shelves installed in our house because it's a fraction of all the books I own. Oh, and if you're curious, yes, I do read very widely. For example, here's one on the brain and like how to remember things. Here's one on discipline. This one's a classic about space flight. Let's see. This is about politics. Got some stuff on theology over here. A little bit of history. Let's see. Creativity. Oh, this is a really good one. Hey, I'm going to do a list of my best books from 2021, which here's a bit of a sample of those. That video will come out eventually. My wife thinks maybe I spend a little too much money on books, but man, they're so cheap on Amazon. Maybe I'm a bit addicted. I don't know. Oh well. All right. Oh, by the way, I publish things about the books I read over on my website, reaganschrock.com, and you can just click the little book club section there if you want to learn more. Okay, well, that takes care of most of that. So many options, so many good books to read out there, y'all. Like, how do you even know where to start? Well, as always, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video. Peace.